Good evening, everyone. This is Samuel Lombardo, the CEO of SL Models and Talent Agency, LLC. Let your light shine and unleash the artist within, for we have a special edition, the EIDL, hashtag EIDL, give me my grant. And of course, with that, I am going to bring to your attention three things that a specific act is going to do in legislation, and that is your S.4227. So let me first begin with the three things that the S.4227 does for the Small Business Administration. It will determine that the administrator bring documents of proof of allocated appropriated fund. So it will also, second thing, it will also, should I actually say, it does tell the administrator that the administration of the small business must pay $10,000 within 15 days of those allotments that had happened that are not appropriated the full $10,000. Then there's those within 3 days of new applicants where they're going to get their $10,000 within 3 days, as what the CARES Act originated, but now will be amended with this S.4227, since some of us just want to make up the words and we get confused with the word the and may, these stupid little particles that even the courthouses today have trouble reading. I'm just going to leave it as that. And then, of course, the third thing is going to be the appropriation of funds that will be up to $2 million, no cap on that they should be allowed to do it. Now, the one thing that I wish that they had in there, and I want to plead it, is this thing about credit scores. See, the issue with the credit score, I could see, here's what I feel. If you're going to make a cap, then make a cap on something that is going to be under a certain amount, but no more than with somebody that has a certain credit score or something to that sort, because everybody's going through this disaster, and I have many resources besides like online resources, which you might find from Forbes or somewhere, so even the Wall Street or whatever the case may be. But I go to straight up banks and places where they are working, like Chase, that works directly with the SBA. In fact, I even asked the Small Business Administration, for which I'm working through one of their consulting programs called SCORE for my company. And they all they basically, because after doing the interview, there is nothing in their guidelines that says anything about a credit score for disaster loans. Now, I understand that there's a big pool of money and there's all these businesses all at once trying to apply for the thing, and you're like wondering if this is like legit and all this. That I understand. But I also understand the flip side. So here's my plead. I'm going to plead it for both the administrator, because, and before I do this, I want to applaud. I want to applaud the Senate Administration Finance Committee for actually being able to have a program of this sort be available to the American small businesses and subcontractors, I guess, if you will. And then I also appreciate what the administrator is doing to try to figure out how she can allocate funds. I mean, Are there mistakes along the way? Yes. If she could figure out what those mistakes are, then that would be even better. That's a bonus, okay? But as far as, like, you also got to know your terms. You got to know what a dispute is, what embezzlement is, and what a fraud is. All right. And that would be on. I'm going to put that right up on top of the video that I actually did record about the EIDL advances and the difference between dispute, embezzlement, and fraud. So now you can hear me rant about that a little bit. But this video is mainly pertaining to a plea. And I also want to thank the president for even acknowledging that this is actually a very important thing to bring to the public federally for the help that small businesses need. Now, I'm done applauding, okay? I think that the program could be a much better thing, but I want to throw in some suggestions now. One of the suggestions is that if you were going to actually kill off the $2 million stretch, right? And that's a lot of money, believe me. If you're going to calculate that to like 100 businesses, that's like $2 billion, you know? So that could be a whole lot of money if every small business is going to apply for $2 million. So here's what I would say as a suggestion, and it says that it could be appropriated by the administrator. So let me just, before the bill even gets signed, let me just kind of help you out how maybe you can make this work for your benefit. Are you ready to hear that? So that credit score that you're looking for, why don't you do it like this? Why don't you make the cap at $150,000, okay, for those who are under that credit score? Meaning that their aggregated amount, unless their credit score goes up, because you got to understand that most people, and I have done this study and it's online, most people had suffered from this pandemic, and then by you just tapping into the credit report doesn't help at all. So when they have points dropping like crazy, like for example me, my credit score is more about student loans. I ain't even got debt for anything. Most of my debt was paid when my business was doing good in 2019. All right. The only debt that I have is student loans, but the student loans are on hold anyway by default because of the signed order the president had put in, and then the extended one from the executive order. So I don't even know why my credit score is the way it is, but it is the way it is, and that's as far as I can go. I mean, I can't even boost it. Actually, no, I did two things. I actually got 2 credit cards, one of those I don't know, like they give you a $300 limit. I got 2 of those and paid that already by keeping it low at 30% on the limit, which means that only gives me what, like $50 to spend, and then I gotta pay it back. So as long as I'm doing that, that credit score should boost, you know, soon, okay? But the way I look at it, the whole point of me even bringing this up is that you can cap that, right, for those who have a lower credit score. It still gives them a chance to try to work with at least $150,000. But then there's like anything above $150,000, so are going to have to collateralize it. They're going to have to sign paper. I mean, I would have to sign papers too, but what I'm getting at is it's like there's more responsibility for a $2 million loan versus a $100,000 loan, is what I'm saying. So I can have an aggregate amount, and you could even do it like this. Well, if you were smart enough, and you had the system. I don't know what system you do have, but I'm just going to throw it out there that you could do up to $20,000 per year as long as you're showing improvement during year 2. And then I could get the loan. Now, of course, the same stipulations would still have to apply. Like the loan cannot be used to go to Miami or go to a cruise or whatever, but the loan would be used to the purpose of the business, correct? So it's the same thing, but you can allot them within, like, say, 3, 4, 5-year segments of $25,000 or whatever. That will actually help small businesses. Now, does that mean that you have to check the credit score? Yes. It would still have to mean that SBA would have to check the credit score, but at the very least, they would be able to check the credit score and see that you are below their tier, but that they would be willing to give you a $100,000 loan, but they're not going to give you a $500,000 loan because you're not credit worthy to actually get the larger loan. And it's even going to prove worse if you can't even pay the loan. So you have to understand that a loan is a loan that gets repaid. Now, the advance, there's nothing I could do about that. Okay, administrator, I'm sorry to say that. S.4227 says it very clearly that you're just going to have to allocate the rest of the $10,000 to those who had applied in the past. And you're going to have to pay the $10,000 to new applicant. So that's perfectly fine. Now, those who are in reconsideration, especially if it's for credit, since you already know it's for credit and the business, you're not confused about the business and if the business is doing this or whatever. At this point, you would be able to actually allocate the right loan amounts and then just send in the right email that would stipulate what it is that you're trying to do or what you want to do. But again, after talking to Shay, SCORE, and many other places, I have not yet saw any place that said that disaster loans, not SBA loans. I know that SBA 7A loans, yes, there is a determination that, they do check the credit for. But even then, the loan officer could still work with you if it's tweaked a little bit or whatnot. But for an SBA disaster loan, it has never been, that wasn't any of the stipulations. Like you think, let me tell you this, the people that are dealing with wildfires that are being forced out, they're being forced out, or like all of these broken businesses down there because Hurricane Laura, or whatever the case is. Do you think they have time for, let me check your credit real quick, let's see if you can get a loan, and then they say, nope, we can't give you a loan, and oh, wow, what a surprise. That's the whole point of disaster. Now, normally, I believe FEMA sticks their head into it. They are the ones that deal with the disasters like that. So I'm guessing that's why it's not exactly the same as this disaster loan that is idle. I don't know. And I am actually asking the question because that's the one part that I'm really confused about. Maybe you could put it down below in the comments. But FEMA doesn't check credit reports. They just basically check to find out if you're in a disaster and emergency area. And if you are, then they allocate the fund to the SBA of which the disaster loans are allocated. That's pretty much what I see there, or what I think I see there. But let me know if I'm hallucinating. Maybe I'm wrong with that. But I have a plea. or actually maybe another suggestion. So there's $155 billion left in that account. Now let's just give or take. Let's just say that your Honorable Javita Carranza decides, ooh, well, I'll go and approve everybody, right? And then there's $80 billion left. Guess what? Then you only need $100 billion in that $1.3 trillion thing, stimulus package, I say thing, to actually allocate towards SBA. So you could actually really play with the numbers that you see, and that's how you can negotiate that. Same way with PPP. PPP is just flat out done. There's like 180 or 200 billion or whatever it is left in there. And they only want 200 and something billion anyway for the PPP. Well, what's the point of that? I mean, the money is right there. Open it up again. There's no sense of putting more money into something that you didn't use, right? Now, that would be a little bit called wasteful spending. I'm just saying. Now, for the EIDL, because I'm sure everybody's going to want to run away with loans or whatever, the math's going to have to get done. Now, Rubio, I understand your concept that before it used to be all about bringing in money quickly, but it needs to be just as quick now than it was before, because small businesses are going under. Not the large corporations like Amazon, Walmart, or even Starbucks for that matter, or whatever. I'm talking about like your small coffee shop, your restaurant competitors and all that. Now, if you heard my other video earlier today, I was explaining to you that businesses should not focus on competition, but we're in the new era now where we should be focusing on collaboration. It's all about collaboration. So if you don't know how to collaborate, that is going to be where your downfall is going to be. I'm telling you. I don't care how much you think you could be a winner or even a negotiator. If you don't know how to negotiate a collaboration, then you're not going to be able to withstand business today. It's a new era. And that's just the way it's going to be. So that's why I'm confused even with the issue of that's why I'm actually confused with one person saying they're doing wasteful spending, but the other person is saying that they're doing wasteful spending. Look, let's just do some quick math. You got 220 billion in PPP, that's flat out closed. You only want to do what's 200 trillion or 200 billion, excuse me. I'm adding numbers. I'm being like Nancy Pelosi here. I'm sorry. Okay. 200 billion. Well, if you only need 200 billion, you got 250 billion in there. Take the 50 billion and move it over to EIDL advance. Now you only need 30 billion for the advance. So you already got the 100 billion that's in there already. It's already in there. You got in other words, you're doing meaningless math for no reason. Why is everything got to be so difficult? 200, right, plus 180 is $380. Well, let's do the math. I mean, if you can't do it in your head, there's some paper here, right? You got 250 plus 155. That's $405 billion for 380. You're $25 billion in the good. Now, am I trying to tell you go ahead and give that to the postman? Not necessarily. Maybe Nancy would, but not me. What I'm saying is that you're $25 billion in the good. You could probably use that as, like, say, maybe you could use that towards the people that are been denied on credit, but are still trying to run their small business and they can't get a loan because you're stuck with bad credit issues. Because you know what's even going to really stink? Now, this isn't anything that I actually saw. I've only heard people talking about it. So I'm not sure if this is really a thing. I believe it is part of a thing that is in legislation through the House about this thing about forgiving the small businesses loan. So if you run past this video to help me out a little bit about where your resources are coming from, if you could post those down in the comments, that would be a great help. But let's just say that if that is true, and you know what? It should. I'm pleading that it should. And here's why. You already know that people's credit aren't even worthy enough, and the ones that are worthy enough are only getting further into debt. If you're going to forgive PPP, and then you can use that to refinance what you gotten from the SBA, then to me, none of this even makes any sense at all. So you're forgiving the loan and you're saying, here, you could use the, say you get a $50,000 small business loan, if you do. See, with me, I can easily get a PPP just like that. When it reopens up, that's what I'm going to be doing. I'll get it just like that. Because the only thing I got to do is just prove, like, what my expenses are and all that stuff. But in the meantime, the SBA is sitting there like, well, your credit score stinks. We can't help you. For a disaster loan. My credit score stinks. I cannot help you. So, yeah, I am kind of ranting, but at the same time, I'm actually pleading because here are many people, the average Joe out there, I'm sorry to say this, businessman or no businessman, or if you're going to be like even, well, unless you are Jeff Bezos, it would be the only other person that wouldn't have an issue about credit scores, but the average Joe out there probably already got their credit score twinked just because of just dealing with an SBA loan, let alone even trying to get out there and get approved for an apartment or a house. It's because now they may end up with a $150,000 loan that, don't get me wrong, even if they could pay for it, it's one thing, but how long are you dictating the pandemic to be before you say, oh, well, we're going to go ahead and start accepting payment? So come next year, if we're still in the pandemic, we got to pay payments to something that we're now in debt to. You see? So there needs to be some kind of a compromise there when it comes to that. So maybe the $25 billion that is left out of that $405 billion, that I just add it in front of your face on my video. You don't even need any more money coming from anywhere. All you need to do is play with the numbers that you got in front of you right now. Now, I understand we got Nancy Pelosi standing there with the queen of figures all over her talking about 2.2, 2.21, 2.92648. I don't know, maybe there's phone numbers in there. If so, or perhaps I can get the lucky number and I might be able to win the lottery and forget the loan period. But I don't know. there's some very odd numbers out there that she's given. But what is the dictatorship of this woman? We got a whole house with several hundred people in there that could be voting for themselves. Now, I do hear a story going around on YouTube that states that the House legislations that they're trying to do some things. Well, congratulations that they're trying to do some things. But the real deal is going to be whether or not the House can actually approve any kind of a bill besides the one nay that's standing up there on a pulpit, bang, 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 talking about, no, I'm not going to budge nothing. We don't care if you budge anything. As far as I'm concerned, if the House of Representatives agree and the Senate agrees and Donald Trump's ready, then I guess you could just bang that thing all day long if you wanted to. Whoa, I got things flying at me. Okay. You could go ahead and bang that all day. It don't matter to me. It might break. But your no doesn't mean anything with 3 yeses. Now, of course, the feds does say, I can print the money, I can make the money, I could do all this abracadabra, hocus pocus with this grand scheme of things. But, the president also wants to be very fair about what he's doing. It's not so much the debt as much as it is what kind of debt is out there that needs to be cleared up. Now, small businesses, yeah, they are in debt for no fault of their own. That's one thing. But that don't have anything to do with how the states, local governments were running their scenarios. Now, am I against that scenario? No, not wholeheartedly, but I also feel that I feel like there's a strong thing with nasty plastic, nasty, or however you want to say this, okay? Talking about no, 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 no. And then you can't even give a line item receipt of why you want even to come down? So what are you taking down? Oh, you're taking the money for the people down, but you still got $1 trillion for a bad run state and local government, right? That's what you're basically saying. Now you're probably wondering, why is all this going on a SL Model and Talent Agency YouTube? The reason I'm bringing this up is, folks, I'm supporting of all of what the unions want. As long as this pandemic is going on, there's all these artists that are not getting paid. They're not furloughed. There ain't no work. So then, yes, they're out there, they're trying to do whatever. I mean, they might pick some hours up at Amazon, they might pick some hours up at a restaurant, they might, wherever they can get a job where there's a job open, put it that way, and that they're not going to be furloughed. We already got a housing crisis at the heels. Actually, we've kind of fell off of that one. Won't even go there. That's way off the topic. But this is a situation where we are at right now. Now, do I feel bad that the Senate didn't do nothing when Nancy Pelosi started with the other thing? Yes, that there is that argument there too. But to be very honest, it wasn't going to go anywhere. I mean, look at the figures. We got a skinny bill, a big bill, a muscular bill. All these bills, I mean, the one bill that I want to see is the one that's going to put the money back into the pockets of who actually deserves it. The American people, the small businesses that need the help, and most importantly, for this channel, I am in very big support with those who are in the entertainment industry that no longer have jobs and now are being, tarnished of their way of doing things. What? Because you suggest. Pandemics don't go abracadabra, they don't poof and go nowhere. Just like the wildfires, just like Laura came and went, but boy, did it do the damage. Shit, that could just go abracadabra, poof, then we wouldn't be spending any money for the aftermath. But unfortunately, we need green, right? Like you said. So we do, we need green. I think everybody needs green. But you know what? Here's the interesting part if you actually are focused in very clearly and if things were done fair enough. Obviously, they're not because we're stuck with the House of Representatives and the misplaced it. Talking about, I'm not going to budge 2.4, 2.98, 9824, 2.892. I don't know where her figures are. Go down 2 trillion here, 2 million there, $1 billion over here. It's like, I'm lost. I'm sure the average Joe out there is lost too when it comes to, and there is nothing about, well, I'm spending 300 billion for this, 100 billion for that. And then, let alone negotiating. When the Republicans are negotiating, what I see is, okay, look. So I see that there's $155 billion in SBA. Let's just say that as an example. All right. Well, this would be Nancy Pelosi. Well, I want $500 billion for that. And I'm not going to budge next week. Well, we got $155 billion minus $500 billion. How about we go for $345 billion. Would that be good? No. I'm not going to budge from the $500 billion. So you know what? How about $250 billion? This is literally her math. I'm sorry, folks, but this is just how it goes. Where do you get $250 billion from $155 billion that's already in there and you're not going to budge from $500 billion? Does any of that crap even make any sense? It literally does not make any sense at all. Just like you go with the other way around. Okay, here comes someone else I won't even mention. Okay, talking about 2 plus 2 equals 8. See, we'll give you $300 a month, and then the state puts in $100, and then if they give you $200 more and we add $200 to that, boy, would that look like a surprising gift. What? There ain't nothing in that stipulation that's 2 plus 2 and you get $100 or whatever. The only thing in that stipulation that the president signed an executive order for is that, well, 2 things. One is, originally, now that I'm talking about, $100 would be paid by the states and $300 would be paid federally. Funded by the FEMA to the states that do apply. It would probably last about 5 weeks, if that, maybe 3 weeks at minimum, right? And then you're looking at, now we're hearing that you got to have a minimum of $100 in state allocated Yeah, state allocated unemployment insurance to you in order to even get approved for that. So there are millions of people that actually won't even get this, even if the state did apply and is accepted. So I'm not sure where Larry got this idea of $300 plus 100. If they gave $200, I will throw in another two, because there ain't nobody that's doing that. Nobody. I mean, it's nice, wishful thinking. If you want to put that in the next stimulus package, that would be great. You know, if you want to throw $800 in there, that would be generous. But I'm really doubting that that's what you're going to be doing. So stop bullcrapping with numbers. I feel like you're just getting tired. I think you need to take a nap and then wake up, and then you could clear your mind of the calculator and get to the real numbers. That's all I'm basically saying at this point in time right now. So I'm pleading for those who have lost their job for no reason of their own. They didn't choose that they're just not going to go out and perform. They didn't choose that they're just not going to, go out on stage or whatever. A lot of stuff has been happening. And then you got to deal with the state. So going back and forth between the first stage of pandemic opening to those that are third stage pandemic opening, and then states that are closing up again and everything else. It is about time that we actually call out and ask for the respectful advice, the respectful plea of what we deserve. A second stimulus check, yeah, would be very helpful. But I think that EIDL advances, EIDL loans, and PPP are very important. But I don't think we need to forget about EIDL loans and advances. I think S.4227 should be very important. Unless, of course, you're going to shut out a whole entire industry of people. Because most of the industry, I mean, there are other industries too, but I'm talking about mine being that we are dealing with performing and fine arts here, and they are both non-profit and for-profit companies within this industry. And people need the help. And that's basically what my plea is. So I'm arguing about the real numbers. I'm arguing about the fact that there's about $400 billion or something like this that is left between two programs, one of which is completely shut and the money's just sitting there, and the other one is still moving along, quote unquote, with goalposts going either way. It's time to finish this up, folks, and let's be real. And everybody does deserve that advance. There should have been no reason why someone should have been confused between two particles in the English language that it just doesn't make any sense. So now we're going to use the new particle. You must pay within 3 or 15 days. And until next time, I hope that all of you have a great and safe rest of your evening, and stand by for more videos tomorrow, as we will be updating events that are happening here with SL Models and Talent Agency LLC. Have a great day. Don't forget, subscribe right here, and also look at the other 2 videos that I think you're going to really enjoy, dealing with EIDL advances and loans and my rant about that, but also information about what our company is doing in supporting our artists. Stay tuned.